All right, so hello, welcome to the Cubecast, the Cube Squad podcast. We're on episode 49, and today we're gonna talk about some spoiler kind of reviews or our take on it. There's Invincible had recently finished its series, and so did Marvel's Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Um, and
Marvel versus Winter Soldier, you
Yes,
mean?
Marvel versus an entire Marvel series versus Winter Soldiers. Uh, Off the recording, I had made that mistake of I don't know why I just went Marvel versus Winter Soldier, but no, it's not that. Yeah,
Might have been a more interesting show if it had been that.
yeah, probably. I would have been down for that. I mean, okay. I mean, if guests were on it right now, or at least we're talking a little bit about it right now. The Okay, so so Falcon versus damn it. Now I'm fucking it up. uh, so yeah, Falcon and the Winter Soldier just recently came out, and this is after WandaVision and stuff like that. And it is true that is, the, I guess, the antithesis to it, to I guess WandaVision. But
Uh,
yeah, I mean, my quick take. Eh. It was just
did you watch the whole thing?
I watched the whole thing.
Yeah.
I'm not okay. Again, it's like it's again. I don't know what it is. Maybe I have the feeling of like I can't help but compare these current Disney Plus shows to
Mm.
Netflix shows,
Mm.
and it just hurts every time I hear anybody's like, man, this is so good, and it's like they're all this hype, and it's just like I feel like, are you forgetting the genius that it was the previous Netflix Marvel series, and they don't
Right.
nearly have
Yeah.
as much like backing as Disney, right? Like you gotta be
Yeah.
kidding me, right? And then I'm like, they could even scratch the like. I don't know. That's just me, okay? Like it just
No,
hurts,
that's fair. Yeah.
Like
I
it just
yeah.
hurts.
I
It's kind of
understand
like
that.
this feeling of like you couldn't even get them close to being that like amazing. I mean, okay, you're entertaining. You have these moments of entertainment,
Right.
and it does add like to the Marvel universe. Like you get stories of things that you didn't get filled in the gaps with.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. I certainly appreciate that. Like I don't think that they should not exist. They definitely should exist. And then the opposite side is like, I mean, it should exist, but the Netflix series should also exist. Like, it needs to
Yeah.
coexist.
For
Like,
sure.
it's
I
like,
agree.
I don't think it's just like, wow, it's just there's a lot
Yeah.
of missed opportunities too for what they could have done for the series
Yeah.
up and it's more of a judgment on both series right now at the whole. Like seeing it all is just like I don't feel like I need to like watch these. It just doesn't it only adds like starting points to what the movies will do, and I'm hoping the
Right.
movies answer some of the things that I like, some of the kind of like background of like things that they don't really get into. Like I feel like the series is intentionally avoiding explaining things to
So I
let.
can leave it for the movies.
Yes, exactly. Like
Yeah.
it feels like
Yeah.
right in the writer rooms, like, oh, let's not go there because they could need that for a reason in the like they don't want to
Right.
contradict something in the movie.
Right.
I get that in a very technical way of storytelling, but I just it kind of it's like then you're flawing the series for the
Right.
movies. You know what I'm saying?
Right. The series is
Yeah.
like automatically undervalued simply because you're saving like the best material for the movies.
Right. Either
Um,
the best material or they just don't want to contradict themselves, which I can understand that, and but then like artistically for the writers and the directors and the actors and just the whole production of just the series, it now you're just like you're in this narrow corridor of having to navigate it, and it
Yeah.
hurts the series. Like it really
Yeah.
feels like I don't, and I think it explains a couple of things that I can mention about like so Falcon and the Winter Soldier obviously
This is
they
full spoilers to anybody
yeah
who's
yeah
listening to both
so
Falcon and Winter Soldiers and Invincible. So yeah.
right so okay again so Falcon and Winter Soldier okay again it sounds like I'm saying bad shit about it it's just more like it's more like it's fun actiony. It has these moments, and of course, like, so does like WandaVision have these moments of like good characters and development of like especially Vision and Wanda. Then there's like this problem of like, well, we didn't go deep enough into like, oh, you're slapping on the witch part of her title, but the disconnect between witch and witchcraft is so far, and they can't cram it in an episode and a half. And I understand that, but why couldn't we like integrate it any other way? But we also needed to put in Sword to set up a freaking Marvel for Captain Marvel, and then set up for other shows. I'm assuming, but
Well,
like I don't know.
I mean, like in terms of the Scarlet Witch thing, like her actual title, I don't know that they're ever gonna go further into that. Frankly, even when they have her in like Doctor Strange and stuff, I think
I don't think
they
they are.
will probably just leave it there. But in terms of the Sword thing, I mean, it makes sense to have Sword in there because there's like no Shield anymore. So like Shield would be there, right? Shield would basically be doing all the stuff that Sword's doing, but since they're not there, Sword is the one who's taking over. But like, I mean, yeah, I mean, I agree with what you said so far in terms of Falcon and Winter Soldier. Like for me, we talked about WandaVision on a previous episode. I really enjoyed WandaVision the whole way through, and I did feel like it was a full story. Like I felt like we don't need another season of this. With Wanda specifically, I felt like it was a really good character exploration of that character. It did, there were a few shortcomings in terms of her actually transitioning from Wanda to Scarlet Witch, but aside from that, I felt like we fleshed out this character that was before a supporting character and made her an actual full character, like I've wanted to see for a long time. Whereas with Falcon and Winter Soldier, the whole I enjoyed it for the most part, but it's very much like after WandaVision, Wanda felt like a full character. Whereas after Falcon and Winter Soldier, both characters still feel like sidekicks to me. Like they don't feel like the whole time I was like, even knowing that Steve Rogers wasn't going to come in, I was like, this feels like it'd be better if Steve Rogers was here with them. Like it feels like it would be complete if he was here. Like it doesn't feel like they can carry this show by themselves, which is an issue because I felt like this series in particular was very much like it really was a half measure more than WandaVision was, where they really, really like you could feel them holding back the more interesting stuff. Not even necessarily so they could save it for the movie, but simply they just didn't go into it. Like the whole like Black Captain America thing and the whole
which is surprising
and then
they didn't go further into it. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. There were so many interesting bits. Like there was that, and then like having the whole John Walker character who becomes, who's like the new Captain America, and he predictably goes crazy again, very easily goes crazy, and then he becomes U.S. agent and all this stuff. But it's that character, like he was clearly a multifaceted character. Like he wasn't one dimensional. He was a dick, but he wasn't the typical dude who comes in and you just realize, oh yeah, this guy is the wrong guy for the job. It's like, no, I think he probably was right for the job, but he wasn't like, we didn't spend enough time with this character for me to be like, because like, obviously it was never a surprise to me. Like, here's one thing about the series. Everything is predictable. there's no surprises here. Like, it's not like I was ever like, holy shit, that happened? Like, what? The whole time I was like, yeah, of course John Walker's gonna go crazy. Of course. Obviously he's this, he's this like seasoned soldier who's like special ops, and he comes in and there's all this pressure and stuff, and then, the fourth episode or whatever, he, his douchebag buddy is killed. His douchebag black sidekick is killed, and he goes, Battlestar. He goes fucking nuts, and he kills this dude in one of the Flag Smashers in public, and everybody's filming it, and he's like, and that's the end of him basically as Captain America. And I really wanted to see more of that character, because the idea of like a more damaged Captain America, a Captain America who's always sort of operated in the gray area of morality, and who has at least a little bit of PTSD, clearly, like that would have been interesting to explore those elements. But just like the Isaiah, I think his name was Isaiah Washington, the Black Captain America,
first one, supposedly the first one.
Well, he was the second Captain America, because he said that he.
Isn't that weird? Like, I remember specifically. Sorry, this might be a side, but I remember specifically that he was supposed to be the first one, and then it was Steve Rogers. It's just the first one. Okay, in the comics, right? Obviously, I'm talking about the comics. I could have sworn that was the case, but because what they had done prior to Steve Rogers experimenting on people, and then out came the serum that eventually became Steve Rogers, which is like the bigger controversy that they tried to put in the story. If I remember correctly, that's what I remember correctly in the comics. But yeah, aside from that, other stuff that came from the comics was just kind of like the Battlestar part, where the guy's nickname is Battlestar. That was actually Steve Rogers, or Winter Soldier's previous moniker before becoming Winter Soldier from the comics. But it's interesting they adapted it here in the sense that he gave himself the name. And then they also did, this is one of the Captain Americas that did go a little too, like, this is post, I guess, Steve Rogers retiring as Captain America. And that's when, I guess, I can't remember, like, it's kind of confusing. Like, either Battlestar had taken over as Captain America. Oh, yes, he had a different, yes, okay, so Winter Soldier, like, he was Battlestar, died, supposedly, but, secretly being Winter Soldier, and then he got another sidekick. That sidekick was Battlestar, became the new Captain America, but he was like, the next extreme, and then they took that shot of him with the blood all over the shield as part of, like, the big deal, which differentiates him from Steve Rogers. Like, even then, like, the bio says that Captain America is, like, extremely right-wing, like, like, he's, like, kind of an extremist in that sense, and he's, like, it's like country or nothing kind of person.
Right.
And
which is, and, like, John Walker is another Captain America that I do know from the comics, and he becomes U.S. agent like he does and at the end of the season of this show. And, he's not like, I don't remember from the comics, but definitely in the show, he's not like super right wing. He is like, okay, doing this for country, but he, like, clearly he's like, he is this character who's like, he's done bad. He's had to do bad things in his past, but, like, he's not like some dude who's just like this one note assassin who doesn't give a fuck. Like, he clearly, like, feels bad what he's done, but he sort of just keeps marching on. And again, you could have just gone further with that. Just like, I mean, you could like what we were saying with Isaiah Washington, and also like with fucking Zemo. Like, bringing Zemo back, like, he was so wasted. He was like this, like, kooky dude who was, like, hanging around. He wasn't even a villain. Like, I was like, he was just this funny dude, like, dancing and making weird comments, and, like, I was just like I like having him around, but, like, he was just like, but why did you bring him back at all? It almost just felt like fan service. Like, oh, here's Zemo again, and then in the end, he's back in prison. Like, and then they're announcing on the radio that whatever his plan or like whatever his like I guess come to fruition, and he's like, yes, yes. But that's it. Like he didn't really do much of anything. Like even in terms of manipulation, he didn't really need to be there for all that stuff to happen. So it was a little odd. It was a little odd. Yeah. I mean that I think that's my biggest complaint with the series. I would say overall is just you didn't there weren't enough character moments to make any of these characters, especially the two leads, really feel like this was even a necessary story to tell. Even though it was entertaining, we didn't really need any of this. It was like you were saying earlier, it's kind of just to fill in the gaps, but at the same time, not every story needs to be told, and not every gap necessarily needs to be filled in by a 6-episode fucking series. And I did feel like in the end that was one of these series where it's just like they have so many shows on the docket coming down the line in the next few years, and I'm just like, how many of these shows are going to be like this, where it's just like it's kind of just to fill time. It's kind of just to fill time until the next movie comes out. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of strange that they had moments like where you understood like Zemo's concept, and it was kind of there to kind of like contrast their thoughts on what it meant to be the not Winter Soldier, but a super soldier.
Right. And his idea of like supremacy and how like no one should be basically held above anyone else. And it's an interesting concept, but the way he explained it is like easily contradicted, where it's just where, he's all, it's like, okay, even the Avengers were built on that concept. And it's like, it's not really the same thing. Like, I understand what you're saying, but like, your argument is very shallow, and they didn't go further into his mindset and his philosophy, like we still don't really know that much about who this guy is.
Yeah, it didn't add more to the character having him there, unfortunately. It's one of those weird things where I feel like they had him there, but only as like some sort of like one, a setup, and then two, just a doorway for them to move the story plot over.
Right.
It was just felt like that was the
where it literally could have been any other dude, but they made it Zemo so that
right.
Well, it's like, oh yeah, remember Civil War, this dude, and
and they could have easily just had the one character, what's her name, the one that helped that was helping shoot. She was in the movies. What's her name? Damn it! She became the broker.
Oh yeah, Sharon Carter.
Yeah, so she could have easily just been there then.
Yeah, that's another character. That's another one where it was just like, oh, because they hadn't mentioned what happened to her before, and then they mentioned it in the show where it's like, oh yeah, when they stole the shield at the end of Civil War and like broke everybody out, then okay, we know that Cap and Sam went on the run for 2 years. But we didn't know what happened to her, and apparently she became an enemy of the state, and she had to go on the run too. And she ends up in Madripoor, which was a cool little Easter egg that they put that place in there, that like pirate sort of sanctuary, because that's like one of Wolverine's like favorite places in the comics, and a lot of people are like, oh, that this is how they're going to bring in the X-Men. I don't know about that, but it was cool to see that location. But it was Sharon Carter was again sort of another. Again, not surprising at all. Oh, she's the power broker? Like, saw it fucking coming a mile away. It's like not a surprise at all. But it was like she could have done so much more. She could have been like so much cooler. They could have, done more with the character. And by the end, again, I was just like, why'd they bring her back at all if you're just not going to do anything with her? Like, it was just kind of like, yeah, she's here. She's turned bad. And that's it.
Yeah, it did. I guess it's like they're. It's so weird that they have the consequences happen, but the characters have no idea the consequences that leads up to anything. And then the end character, yeah, U.S. Agent, man, he had like a lot of potential, and his
Yeah,
turnaround didn't make sense. Like him going full evil
yeah.
didn't. It was like pretty easy to go that
Yeah, I
way.
mean that's
I
like I know
guess.
we talk about Game of Thrones on this fucking show a lot, man. That how this fucking final season sucks and Daenerys, but it really did feel like that Daenerys situation again, where she just one episode she's sane, and the next episode she's just insane, and that's it. And it felt exactly like that with this, where it was just like that's all it took for him to go insane. Like that's all it took for him. Like
Right.
this dude who's seen so much combat, who's done so much things, so many things, and done clearly all these bad things that they've referenced in the past, but is trying to move past that. And like I understand that it was his best friend and his partner in crime and everything, but it's just like it just took that one little thing to push him over the edge. Like
Right.
that's
Yeah.
it. Like I don't know. Like
We
I
need
didn't
more
buy it.
content. Yeah,
Felt
exactly.
very
Like
contrived, you know?
it was one of those things where I felt like it needed the more context. What was going on in his,
Yeah.
you know, in his life that caused him to go that direction.
Yeah, and maybe why these two guys are actually so close, right? Like I thought they were gonna show flashbacks of the shit they were talking about,
Right.
right? Like so
Right.
you, it's like, oh
Exactly.
yeah, we had to do some really bad things,
We
and
had to
like
do
if we
some
had
bad
had this,
things.
if we had this serum, imagine how many like lives we were gonna could have saved.
Right.
And I was
You
like,
would have
cool,
understood.
are you gonna show that?
Yeah.
Like, nope.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. It was like, what the fuck? Yeah. Exactly. It was like.
Like, because it was just like he took the like John Walker took the serum. Like it wasn't like he picked it up after Zemo destroyed like all the other capsules, and then it was just like, okay, is he gonna take it? Isn't he, or isn't he? And then like he ends up taking it off screen, and then he just has the
Right.
abilities, and I'm like, are you kidding? Like,
He doesn't even
there's
have the moment. You know.
right. We don't even see the moment of choice where he makes
Right.
that choice to take it, and it's just
Yeah.
like, well, that
He took it
that
away from
just
the character.
undervalues the entire transformation of that character.
Yeah, it's just like it's at first when I first saw his character, I was like, wow, a perfectly normal human can
Yeah.
use the shield in a
Yeah,
very
yeah,
efficient way, and it's
yeah. That was
surprising.
cool.
And
Yeah,
we're like, yeah, so okay, we get an idea that he's like an exceptional person, right? Like
right,
whereas Steve Rogers had to take a serum to become an exceptional person in the
right,
physical part, of course, but
right.
I'm saying
The
like
whole yeah. Steve
he
Rogers was like super special
right.
because of his character. Like Zemo and like Winter Soldier were talking about that, about like how it was like the serum has literally corrupted everybody else who's ever taken it except Steve Rogers, and that's like why he's so special as a Captain America. But yeah, in terms of John Walker, I agree. It was so cool to see like the news footage of like that they were showing of him like throwing the shield and shit, and like it was bouncing off and he was just catching it, and like that was really cool. I really like the idea of the next Captain America not being a super powered individual, and
Right.
that's what that was, and it was a lot of potential there, a lot of cool stuff. But
Yeah,
yeah,
it had a lot of potential also to explore that, like thinking that maybe to some degree, like in order to get to that peak level, like he had to sacrifice a lot of his like his social life, maybe even like
yeah.
we get that he has a girlfriend, a wife. I don't know who
I
she
think it's
is.
his wife, but we don't know anything about their
Anything about
relationship, and that
yeah,
character doesn't evolve at
literally,
all.
right? Like
Like
how does
did
he
you
go?
notice also how like the wife, like from the beginning of the series to the end where he becomes U.S. agent, like she doesn't object to anything.
Yeah,
Like
she
she's
doesn't.
literally just
She's
like, oh
literally
yeah, I'll
there.
go along with it. I'm like, well, what? Like you go along with him becoming this like morally gray like dude working for this shadowy organization? Like he was Captain
Yeah,
America before.
like
Like
where does your stance lie on his
yeah,
in his what he does? Do you even know what he does? Like there's
right.
like
That's true. Yeah.
up until this point, all the soldiers that we've ever met in the Marvel universe don't have a significant other that they could share the issues with,
Yeah.
or have the conflict of not showing it to them. And that's the biggest part, which they
Right.
could have explored, since we are talking about soldiers here, because
Right.
fucking Falcon is a soldier, and he deals with counseling soldiers with PTSD, and he's like
Yeah.
literally the perfect kind of like person to talk to, which makes sense that that was the emphasis here,
Right.
that he is like the medium, that can quell the strife that people go through as soldiers, and it makes
Right.
sense that he's with Winter Soldier, who has probably the most extreme, like
Oh yeah.
superhero like level of stress. But then
Yeah.
like him talking down on people that talking not talking down, but talking to people that have those kind of traits makes sense
Yeah.
to have as a villain and two other characters that surround him. And I'm surprised that they didn't explore with his John Walker's character that they have families. How do they deal with it, right? Like
Yeah.
knowing that this guy fucking killed somebody out in the open in that way. But does she understand these things that he has to go through? Does he
Yeah.
share these things? Like most of the time he's on a mission. They probably don't get to talk at all. And if they ever do talk, it's like not he's not gonna talk about it. Like he doesn't want to
Right.
stress like it for people that deal with these situations, they don't want to come home and then just unload it on their wife, right? Like
Yeah.
talk about it because it's gonna resurface it in their mind, and it's gonna stress them out further, which is why they will ignore it. And because of them ignoring it, it makes it worse. Which is like one of the things that's like it's such a thing that I'm just surprised that they didn't delve deeper into these stories and kind of highlight it, because it would have been a perfect way of doing it.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point about like Sam being he's almost like a teacher, right? Like where
Right.
he's talking to these people who, these soldiers with all these problems after coming out of war, and that would have been, I mean, that was the thing where it was like, okay, at the beginning of the series we see Sam give away the shield, or like basically put it back into the government's hands. And then he's for some reason surprised that they automatically bring somebody else in as Captain America, because why the fuck wouldn't they? And then he like, even though at first like John Walker's like he's very like dude, let's work together. Like I understand
like
this is
proactive. He doesn't
yeah,
seem like
exactly.
an
He's
asshole.
not being an asshole to him, and it's just
Yeah.
like Sam's just like whatever, man. And it's just like wouldn't it have been cool like what you were saying, like if Sam had have explored, like if those two guys had have built up a relationship, even if they didn't become friends, but like Sam talks, like seeing that John Walker has this strife and this sort of inner turmoil about the pressures of being Captain America, and him not feeling like he's good enough and he's not a super soldier, and fighting all these flag smashers who are like super soldiers, they've taken the serum, and him feeling inadequate, and like Sam actually talking to him about that, and them getting to know each other, and then it being that much harder for him to have to take him down when John Walker does go rogue. Like, wouldn't that have been fucking cool to see? And I thought that they were going to go that way because it's so obvious. Like, it's such an obvious story choice to take. And that's it. Like, ultimately, at the end of the series, like that characteristic of Sam, him being that teacher, that being that counselor that people can talk to, that's what they emphasize as his biggest trait to be the best Captain America, right? Like that was his Steve Rogers, like I will sacrifice anything. That's where like the character shines through. It's like it doesn't matter if you're a super soldier or not, your character makes you Captain America. And that's what they emphasized at the end, but I'm like, but why didn't you build that up throughout the story? Like, why didn't you build that with the dude who became the villain? Like you even saw a little bit of that when he was talking to the chick who like the lead flag smasher, right? Where she like starts to like trust him, and she starts to like understand where he's coming from, and then John Walker predictably ruins it. For no real reason. It's like, give me 10 minutes with her and I'll talk her down. He's like, okay. And he's like, it's been 5 minutes. And it's just like, I'm going in, whatever. And it's just like, come on. It's forcing the character it's forcing John Walker to be like this goon who is just like fucking up all the plans so that he can be the bad guy in the audience's eyes, and it's just like, it's just is so forced. It's so forced.
Yeah, it's extremely forced. It's wasted opportunity when you could have just easily had that character like just fuck that character. Like we didn't have to have like the villain be that flag smasher person, because I really didn't feel like she She was just there. I didn't feel as close to her as I would if they would have just made the put more emphasis on John Walker. Honestly,
Yeah.
it would have been better
Yeah.
if John Walker was more of the emphasis of like the villain, and then like not spend more time with the character that just has these like not like it's not okay. I get like what they're trying to say is that during the time that there's this conflict of people that come back as from the blip, and then like there's issues that come of it, but they don't further explore that too. They just lightly
Right.
glaze over it. I mean, I guess you could say that Falcon's sister's situation with their family business going under as part of the
Yeah.
issue, but that
I
doesn't
mean,
clear.
but that was like that was like, oh yeah, we got to sell the boat. I'm like, give me a like, okay, fine, but like the thing about the Flag Smashers, and this is again this thing where it's just like I don't know why they had 3 villains on the show. Like I don't know why they decided to like cram in all these villains. Like because like the main chick for the Flag Smashers, like she was okay, but I did empathize and sympathize with where she was coming from, and again, that was one of those situations where I thought they would show more, maybe through flashbacks or maybe I don't know conversations or whatever, but like where she like the whole point of the Flag Smashers is like it's like okay, it's one world, one people, meaning that the 5 years like between when Thanos snapped away everybody and when everybody came back, there was like people were like half the population was gone, and there were all these people like policymakers and all these like country lines, they were taken down. So it was like these people who would have been at war with each other or who had basically been they had been they're mourning together, but it's also like these lines and stuff that we've built, these political lines, they don't mean anything when like half of the people in the world are snapped away and people just started crossing borders and helping each other and just becoming like one homogenous like people instead of like all these divided. And I liked that concept, and it makes a lot of sense like why they were fighting for that, but there's just not enough exploration of that. And and I mean,
really
like
complicated issue, and they didn't give it day. Like they never gave it the day for us to really know. They just gave us lines, a lot of lines, fuckloads of lines. Like it wasn't even like we couldn't even get a demonstration of that issue. Like I needed that moment of understanding, like actually understanding, like right then and there. Not just like
put us on the ground, like in a country where it had previously been like, oh yeah, we've been at war for like millennia, and then Thanos snapped away, half the population, and now over the last 5 years, we've all these different people have come together, and it doesn't matter anymore. Like it just doesn't matter, and it's like, yeah, we did need that like boots on the grounds, like oh shit, like this is the situation they're talking about, instead of just talking around it,
Yeah. And you know what? Speaking of that, is John Walker? Did he get snapped too? Was he part of the snap?
It's a good question. They never said.
They didn't even fucking say anything. Like,
no.
Was he there during when was he trying to also clean things up? I mean, it would make sense if he was also in a particular situation where he didn't get snapped, and now heroes needed to exist, and he was one of the few that kind of like stepped up to the plate and worked really hard to become an ideal human being in terms of ideal physically, for the situation. And maybe like I mean, like honestly,
that would have been cool. Yeah,
they should have just combined. They honestly should have combined the flag the what was it, the flag
smasher?
Yeah, the leader of
that character and John Walker.
Her with John Walker, and then fill in more breath of time between the two, of like having
good idea.
Just like having this conflict of like, and it would have even worked too. Like, okay, so have the conflict of him trying to pull the world together, right? And then it's being all undone, and he's like, but I'm on this side where now I have to undo it. To be the person.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that too? Is like, you're in that 5-year gap, you stepped up the plate to be the best soldier, you've met the requirements that says like you've reached the physicality and the hard work it takes to be a super soldier, which would carry over to his abilities, that we can be therefore convinced that he can use the shield in an absurdly well done way. Which, you know, we do see it, but, you know, you don't get that kind of, like, measure of, like, skill level between, say, like, oh, you know, a regular person versus super soldier versus, what's the Wakandan, like, what was the guard?
Oh, the, like, bodyguards?
Yeah. Well, you know what I mean?
I don't remember what they were called, but
yeah.
Yeah.
Like, where they're at, right? Because, like, they've,
Right.
like, been trained
They were,
for
yeah.
birth.
They're
like,
badass as fuck. Like, when
yeah,
Sam's, like, when they're fighting, Sam's, like, literally, like, I think it was, like, with, who were they fighting? They were fighting, like, Zemo and Winter Soldier and, like, Falcon at the same time, and Sam's like, yeah, like, maybe you should, like, I would rather fight Winter Soldier than these bodyguards. Like, they're literally that fucking badass.
That's fucking insane. Yeah. Oh yeah. You should have. D. You should have seen it. Like
they were destroying everyone. And then I liked because they rebuilt Winter Soldier's arm. Like, she's just able to use these pressure points and, like, just take it off.
Yeah,
so it falls off.
He ejected his arm, and he had no idea.
He didn't even know that they could do that.
Could do that. Yeah, and they were able to use the shield like nothing.
They destroyed John Walker, dude. Yeah. She took the shield and she did the cap thing where he does it in Winter Soldier in the elevator fight where she flips it up to her arm from her foot. I'm like, oh shit. Like, she just kicked his ass. Like, just easily. Like, she took the shield from him. It was just like, oh man. It was so cool.
It makes sense because he's getting into a world he has no idea, right?
Exactly,
no idea. Right? Like, he has his experience of war and all that stuff, but then when he's, like, entering the world for, like, the Avengers and stuff, it's a whole fucking different ballgame.
Right.
And it's great in the way that they did it, certainly, but it would have been better. It would have been better because I wanted to see, it would have been great to have the conflict that, oh, Falcon is like, I'm a seasoned Avenger, like, regular guy in the Avengers, and I had to deal with super crazy people all the fucking time. You don't know what you're talking about, John Walker, right? Like, have that conflict instantly, and then, you know, that kind of, like, you're the noob, I'm experienced. But then at the same time, John Walker's like, well, where the fuck have you been? You've been gone for 5 years.
Right.
I've been doing all this shit, and now I have to be the person to stop it. Like, the irony of if they made it so that he was part of the whole one world aspect, in the sense, it would have been great. Okay, hear me out. If I had a chance to redo that story, it would have been great if it turns out that from the beginning, as he was becoming Captain America, using his shield, all that stuff, quote unquote, try to work with Falcon. Would it be great if it turns out he was a double agent from the get-go? That he was actually working for the whole one world and one blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And he thinks, in his mind, that would have been great. That would have been
you're right. You're right. They totally just should have fucking smashed those characters together. I didn't even think of that. That's.
And it doesn't stop there. My other thought, the fucking character that showed up at the very end to make him U.S. agent,
Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
Random,
I love that. I love that.
Random. Yeah, she's great.
It was so, like, it distracted me. Like, it was hilarious because I love her, but at the same time, I'm like, this actually takes me out of the world because, like, I know her so well from Seinfeld and Veep. Like, I'm just like...
So, okay, now get this, though. Wouldn't it be better if it turns out that was the play on the idea? Was she the shadow broker, or was the other person the shadow broker? Right? Like, and then twist the whole thing, and it turns out that she was there putting him as the double agent, as Captain America. Like, she knew, she's like, yes, Falcon has given up the shield. Excellent. The plan.
Right, and he's been the U.S. agent the whole time.
Yeah.
Like, he was pretending to be Captain America, right?
Right. And then that's the other turmoil that the entire series was leading up to. Meaning, you think that he was a good guy the entire time in the sense that, like, he was having all this turmoil with conflict, right? But it turns out all that conflict that he was having was only because he's being a double agent in the first place. There
Right.
you go. Maybe some remorse on the fact that, oh, you're lying to everybody already.
Right.
Like, I see, but you're kind of stuck with your like worldview of like the world, how the world should be, and that would have been
Right.
much better because it would be like the better lead up to a character that feels more full. Because right now,
Yeah.
I don't think he's a full character. He's just like
No.
half baked, and
I mean, he's literally just there to fall. Like
Yeah.
he's just there
Yeah.
for Falcon to take up the mantle of
Yeah.
Captain America from him. That's it.
I don't feel like, and it feels, and it kind of cheapens it for me. I feel
Oh
like
yeah,
it does-
100%.
Falcon did not work hard to get that shield back. So,
Yeah.
you notice that? Like everything that's happening
It was
given to him.
literally. It's literally just a split-second decision. Like first, he's like, "Okay, I'm gonna give away this the shield," and then he's like, "You know what? I think I made a mistake." And then he takes it back. I'm like, "Are you kidding?" Like this is the mantle of maybe the most important person, like the most important hero in American history, and you're just like sort of just flippant about the situation. Like and that was my problem with the whole thing, where he's just like, it was like I was saying before, where it's just like, "Oh yeah, I gave away the shield." And then it's just like,
nah,
how could you not expect them to make someone else Captain America?
Yeah.
They're just going to leave the shield in there forever? Like they were using it like Captain America, even from Steve Rogers, like he's always been a political tool for propaganda. Like that was Steve Rogers. Like we saw it in the first Captain America movie, where he's like literally drawing himself as a monkey, as the fucking, as the puppet for propaganda in the World War II. And so it's just like that's what Captain America has always been. And like, what did you expect to happen, dude? It was just, it was so stupid.
Yeah. What did you expect to happen in the sense that that they wouldn't just replace you? And it's just like, that's the funny aspect too, is like, I am glad that they brought in like Isaiah, but like at the same time, underused. Like okay, first of all, I'm surprised that they even went there. Like, I honestly didn't think that they would go there because it was so.
I'm surprised that they. Yeah, it is, and I like the fact that like Winter Soldier's the only one who knew. Like he didn't tell Steve Rogers, he didn't tell anyone because he's the only one that had met him in battle, and like I like that idea, but like. The fact it's somewhat surprising me that they went there, but it's more surprising to me that they went there and then went nowhere with it after that. Mm-hmm. Like, because I thought it was like, oh shit, okay, we're making a statement, we're gonna try to tell a deeper story, and then it's just like, no, that's it. Like they just took his blood and that's how they made him a super soldier. It's like, but like again, like because we saw at the very beginning of the series where like Bucky's having the nightmare about like assassinating the dude's son. In like the flashbacks when he was the Winter Soldier, like the Asian guy's son, who he like has guilt about, and he's like crossing out all the names of the people he wants to make amends. And it's just like, okay, why didn't we get any flashbacks about Winter Soldier fighting Isaiah, and seeing what happened to him? And like, because like the whole thing is that Isaiah was like one of the people after World War II, after Steve Rogers disappears, that was tested to become a super soldier, and he's the only one that made it, and he became the new Captain America. And I think during the Korean War, he came across Winter Soldier, and they fought. And like apparently, he fucked up Winter Soldier. Like he was saying, like he took off like half of his metal arm and like all this stuff. And then he was basically, after the war, he was never talked about by the American government. He was wiped out of existence of the public eye, and he was put into prison for 30 years, where they experimented on him and took his blood, and that's how they ended up remaking this super soldier serum that the Flash Smashers made. And it's just like, that's a lot of story to introduce and then to not go anywhere with. Like, it's just like there's so much there.
And it sucks too, because like it's a deep. It's like it's just not an easy story to go over. Like to even
it's like that is perhaps the most interesting part of story that they had in the entire season. Like, and I was sure that they were going to at least go somewhere with it, and it just really
and again,
putters out.
Could have easily connected the dots. Well, what's her name from
Yeah.
Seinfeld? That she could have been part of that story. That she was covering
That's true.
it up. Like she was covering it up.
That's true.
There's so many things that they could have connected the dots and made it a whole story. You know,
the potential wasted. Yeah.
The potential, yeah, it's extreme because like it's the political look. It's that.
Yeah.
Can America like and see? Okay, we got to give it its day. I will say that was really good on how they explained, in my view, how they explained it, where how Falcon had hesitancy to take up the shield.
Oh, sure.
And it's like, I get it. Like, I see
100%. And again, that's another parallel that could have been drawn out with John Walker, right? Not feeling good enough to be Captain America.
Right.
I agree.
And where the for him, it was like there's that race element that's like,
right.
America's just not,
like we're never like yeah, exactly. We're never gonna have a black Captain America. Like even though he didn't believe that, this they're planted with Isaiah and what they did to him, right? And it's. Yeah, like it again. So many angles, so many things. Like even in terms of it being a political thriller, like they were clearly trying to make it like that, like a la Winter Soldier, but they didn't go in deep enough with the politics of all of these things that like would like be able to tell that story effectively. And it's I don't. In the end, you have all this wasted potential. It's just like, well, then why'd you do this in the first place? You add all these cool story elements, all these interesting characters, and then they're just kind of there for the shock and awe, for that moment of shock and awe, and then they're left behind, and you just go the most generic, predictable route to the end of this series or season, if they continue going, whatever, that we all knew was going to happen anyway. Oh yeah, Sam becomes Captain America. No shit, like we knew that was going to happen. It's the story leading up to it that matters, right? It's like the Dark Knight. You can see what's going to happen for most of the plot points in that movie. It's not so much the surprise. It's the fact that even though you know what's going to happen, it's still such a fucking experience to get there. Like you can tell, that Joker's going to break out. You know that Harvey Dent's going to become Two-Face. But even though you know these things, the way they tell the story and the way the characters are developed, and the way that Rachel is ripped away from Harvey Dent, and all these different things, like all these things converge together to make a well-told story that's not surprising, but is just as impactful nonetheless. And they lost sight of that.
Right.
Yeah,
it's the emotional investment. The payoffs weren't there. Like there's a lot of unexplored characters, and they're just kind of really meshed in there, and this kind of. Again, it's not like I'm not saying it's not a bad show.
No, it's bad. It's a solid 7 of a series. Like it's pretty good.
Yeah, it's like it's pretty like it's entertaining. It has like character moments here and there. Like it really is cool to see some of the characters. Like for instance, the affirmation was an agent. What was her name again? The agent that became the Shadow Broker.
Sharon Carter.
Or Power Broker. Yeah, Sharon Carter. Like that was cool. Her fighting sequence was great. Like the actions was like decent. And they had some random moments of like it didn't make me hate the characters. It made me want them more, and it just.
I mean, you want to see more, exactly.
Exactly.
She has it was like she has one line about where she's like, "Yeah, I haven't seen my family in like 2 years. I can't contact anyone," and that's it. Like that's that one sentence is supposed to like make us empathize with the character completely. And I'm like, why don't we see more? Like, I want to know more about what she went through. I want to know more about how she not only survived in this fucking pirate colony, but like how she got to the top of that. Like, I want to see that. That's a cool story that I want to see.
That's the other thing too. Who the fuck she's talking to on the phone, right? Like, again, we could have connected it to the big reveal guy.
Yeah.
What's her name?
That was, Julie Louis-Dreyfus the whole time,
Again. Because I don't she shows up at like 2 episodes, and I'm like, who the fuck are you? And I don't care. Like, I get it. She was, okay, look, if you're a comic reader and you caught her name, yes, she's she's the antithesis to Nick Fury in the comics,
Yeah.
and so on. But as a viewer that has nothing to do, nothing.
No, you know nothing about who she is.
She just comes out of nowhere, and then fucking the John Walker goes from I hate America now. I'm gonna create my own dumb fake shield that breaks in 2 minutes. And then
it was like made out of aluminum or something. I'm like, what the fuck is this?
Taken from basically from Falcon, right? I mean, maybe not literally, but but basically he loses it because America's like, you killed a guy, you decapitated his head with the fucking shield. He's like, take it away from him, right? And then he's just like, man, you trained me for this. I did what you wanted. And then it's like, but no, and then that's when he gets all whiny about his situation and becomes like, I'm gonna be my own Captain America, and it makes his fake ass shield. Like, I guess he knows how to smelt and he knows how to like.
Everyone does in the Marvel universe, apparently. Don't you? I mean, I do. I could make my own shield right now. I just choose not to.
I'm gonna melt all my medals I've collected over the years as a soldier into the shield as symbolism for my.
He throws it once and it like crumples against the wall. I was just like, this is hilarious. Like,
like I was like, okay. I was like, all right, okay. I'll just I'll let it go and I'll let it go and just like let the story speak for itself. But then he goes on further, where it's just like he has a moment where he doesn't kill them. Do you remember this?
Yeah.
Where it looks like, oh, he's coming back from being evil for a second. But why? Because it doesn't add up, because there's no like indication, dialogue, or even previous scene that hits a bone in him. Like,
it's like we're supposed to just read his thoughts. Like, like you should know what's happening, audience. Like, it's like, no, like it's a movie, like not a book. Like, we didn't read his thoughts. Like,
exactly. So it's like, why did he why did he go full evil by killing the guy, and then further demonstrates he hates the situation he's in because he's now being dishonorably discharged by the very people that gave him the shield. And I understand that. You got me. But then when he doesn't kill the people, it's like, okay, why?
Right.
Why did you not do it? I mean,
right. It's like commit to one side or the other.
Yeah,
like,
what? What was the reason? And then having her like show up out of nowhere to convince him to take up some sort of mantle. Why are you talking to this complete stranger you've never met before, and you're just like, okay, opportunity? I got a job now? Like, what? And you don't your wife, and you don't for a
no one
second
questions it.
No one at all. You get a fucking costume that, hey, like, the costume's not bad, but like, you get a costume that's like, I'm more edgier Captain America. Like, I was like, why? What's going on here? Like, what's happening here? Like, what did she offer? Like, I'm gonna give you a 401k. Like, it's not even like she was really like talking to him in a personal level.
Right.
Like, it's not like she was saying anything that the audience didn't already know. You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, like, I guess I can understand what the writers are doing, but at the same time, it was like, because like, I think what they're like talking about it, I think what they were trying to go for, and again, this is just like not well enough explored, but like the first scene, or you see him, like he's in his like old locker room or whatever, and he like takes off the thing that says like John Walker, where he was like, I guess as a grunt or something in the army. And he's like, and he's talking to his buddy about like, okay, like there's so many handshakes here. Like, I'm the new Captain America. There's so many handshakes and speeches and stuff. I just want to fight. Like, I just want to do the job. And it's just like, like, so he's like, if to compare it to something like Jason Todd, he's not Dick Grayson where he's smart and he's this and he's that. He is the fighter. He likes to fight. He's good at it. That's what he does, and that's basically what he becomes as U.S. agent, right?
Yeah, he has
he becomes right. He becomes the fighter, the killer who can do it. And he doesn't have to do the speeches. He can do it in the background. That's what he becomes as U.S. agent. Okay, I get that, but there's no through line there. It's just that one line in the beginning in the locker room, and then at the end of the series, he's offered a job, and that's it.
Right.
Like, that's it.
Again, another opportunity. They could have spoke to the situation of the sequences of events. So what had happened in the sequence of events is that, yes, they're going after these terrorists, but Falcon and Winter Soldier are not being sanctioned by the government whatsoever. Right? I mean, as far as I can tell. And, but Captain America has to deal with the fallout of what Winter Soldier and Falcon are doing. That makes sense. That would make me like,
he's responsible for everything, even though, because he's Captain America. They're free agents.
They're guilty by association. Like, I would have been totally with John Walker in the sense of like him saying, "Stop it." Falcon and Winter Soldier, you're fucking it up for me. You're like, I have to constantly, like, oh, big event happens. They've had a fight. Explosions happen. And then next day, Captain America is just like, instead of me investigating the problem and trying to solve it, I'm here talking to news after news after news, trying to explain to them.
He has to clean up their messes.
Falcon have no association. I would have loved that. You know how that would have been worked so well with his wife too, having to deal with a public figure that way, and him stressing out, trying to juggle him being some sort of figure, and then her having to deal with the fallout too. Imagine what we don't even know what she does. What does she do? Stay at home?
You literally know nothing about her.
Did she go to work and have to deal with people spitting on her and saying, Your husband sucks as Captain America. I want the old one back. Like stupid shit like that would be fine. I don't fucking care because at this point, I have no emotional investment for the turmoil he goes through. I get that we get these lines, and God, he's a great actor, by the way. If you
he's Kurt Russell's son. Yeah,
like so he, he has the understanding of the business and what acting is. So like, it's sad to see that such like a character or an actor like
just
Give
wasted.
him a good enough character. Like he's nothing. Like we just got introduced to him, and you're not giving him enough like time in the screen to have that turmoil.
I can imagine him auditioning for the role and then pitching, and he gets it, and then they pitch him the character, and he's like, "Man, this is a really cool character. I can't wait to see how deep they go." And then they give him the scripts, and he's like, "Oh, okay. Like I thought we were gonna actually go somewhere with the character. Like I thought that was just the pitch. I thought that was the surface, and we're gonna go deeper. But nope."
You know what? Like again, another thing that such another missed opportunity, motherfuckers. Like I fucking hate like coming up with this in hindsight, because dude, that actor he's been constantly being like saying, hey, you should do the remake of
Escape from New York.
Escape from New York. And he's like, no, I'm not gonna do that because it's my father's role, and I'm not gonna just like, it's just gonna be like, it's gonna put on stain on me if I don't do well. And on top of that, it's just like, how do you reach that? It's such a shadow. Right?
And it's also like, just because like I'm his son doesn't mean I'm the right actor to play the role.
Exactly,
like it's not how acting works, where you just inherit your parents' like roles, and you're even better. It's like, no.
And I'm so surprised that they didn't at least at some capacity tap into that.
Right.
Like he doesn't need to act that. He lives it.
Yeah.
He can understand that, and then like
living in the shadow of someone of his of someone else.
And at the same time, like I don't even remember if he had ever a line where he just reluctantly took it. Like, what was the decision?
I don't think so.
Was it like?
No.
Was it because he?
Well, that's another thing. We didn't even see him being offered the mantle of Captain America,
and what
right?
was the thought process? Did he just say yes immediately, or did he say no?
Right.
Was he convinced by his wife? Was he convinced by his best friend?
Yeah.
Was the reasoning? And that's the thing. I can assume that the idea why he would take the mantle was that, hey, I can get a lot of things done.
Right.
That would have been perfect, because then when he gets the mantle, accepts the job, realize it has nothing to do with doing the job, then he's pissed, right? Like that just like, ooh, like that would be the seed for him being like a Captain America meets a Punisher, like fuck it, you don't want me to do the job that you told me to do? I'm just gonna fucking, go full nuts on it, just like, I don't even give a shit, like, saving people's lives, like, fucking,
right, and then and that's again the perfect transition to U.S. agent, who is like, okay, I can get the job done that I want to get done, and I can get down and dirty with this, and I don't have to fucking, there's no red tape at all.
Yeah,
I can just do what I need to do.
Fucking, like, go through. It was just like, man, it's like it's way too much lip service. Way too much lip service in this show. I get it. Like, a lot of the other time, like, all the other time that was taken up was pretty much Falcon and Winter Soldier, which makes sense, of course, that they have to take up.
Sure.
Like, then slim down the amount of characters we have in there. Like, Zemo didn't either. You have Zemo there, or you don't have him there. I hate how they really portray. Like, he's a really cool character, and I agree with a lot of some of the aspects he says, but then I don't like the
way he's portrayed.
The way he's portrayed, in the sense
he's
that
so wacky, dude. Like, he's like the fucking Joker from the Adam West Adam West Batman. Like, I was just like, what's going on? Like,
it didn't feel right.
He's dancing around and giving people like these candies and shit. I'm like, what the fuck is happening? And he's like remarking on the like Marvin Gaye song that that Sam like told Steve to listen to, and he's like, it's the perfect encapsulation of the African American experience. And I was laughing, like, it's a funny line. It's funny. But I'm just like,
it's too much.
Why are you the villain? Like, what's going on? Like,
they're doing
slapstick comedy, dude.
This is the frustrating thing about right now about how DC is dealing with their fucking villains. They're making them too likable. It's just like, I know what they're doing. They're doing a fucking Loki. They're doing a Loki, man. They're just building a fans for him, and I'm all like, but I want to be a fan of the fact the only guy that defeat the Avengers in a way where he barely lift a finger. That is amazing, right?
Right.
And in this one, like, it's just like, I get, like, it's cool that he has that perspective, and it's kind of like that contrast to kind of nudge them. But at the same time, I'm like, man, like, the things he does in the show is just like, this is not the Winter Soldier villain I remember at all.
Yeah, he's a very different character than he was in Civil War.
Yeah.
Like, he's not the same character at all.
Same guy at all. Like, I almost feel like, you could have just stuck with him being, the mysterious, like, very calculated. Like, I get that he's calculated in the show. Like, they show elements of that, but
sure,
but not enough. Not in the level of, like, Saw, where it's like, he lit like everything was already planned out.
He puts the plan into motion, and then he doesn't have to do anything.
Exactly.
Like, it's already laid out, so then he can just sit back and watch it play out.
Yeah, it would have been fine too. Fuck it, connect him to the other. Okay. I'm just gonna call her Seinfeld chick from now on. Seinfeld agent.
I mean, you might as well. She was pretty much like.
What if that's actually, she's not the leader of whatever group she is. The leader is actually Seinfeld, and the Kramer is on the fucking, like, they're in a table. Like,
that would be amazing. That would be amazing.
Like, was it,
the entire Seinfeld cast is like the round table of evil for the MCU. Great.
Oh my god, they're the fucking masterminds. Fuck it. Why not? You want the villains to be likable, right?
Who is more likable than the cast of Seinfeld? Nobody.
It really does draw back to this whole thing. Remember that where we just had that subject of, like, villains don't need a redemption arc? This wasn't a redemption arc. I'm just saying, like, this is getting close to it. Like, you're making him too likable, like, in that sense.
Right.
Like, I need you
Like
to stick
he's almost a
with the
dude
I
who
need you to
he's
stick
almost a
with the
dude who like
sensibilities.
despite what he thinks like and what he does,
Yeah.
you would almost want to hang out with him because he's a kooky, funny dude. Like, and it's just like I don't want to feel that way. Like you look at Joker in Dark Knight, it's just like, yeah, he's entertaining to watch. But would you ever want to actually hang out with him? I don't think
No.
so.
No,
Like
not at
he's
all.
fucking crazy and he would
Very
kill
nuts.
you and your entire family just for a laugh. Like it's
Yeah.
like I don't want to hang out with this, but Zemo, he's like this hospitable dude who's taking you to fun nightclubs and you're having adventures. He's making you laugh on
Yeah.
his private jet around the
They
world.
they they should have
What's
given a
bad about him? Like he
yeah.
put on his mask for like 2 seconds, shut up a couple guys, and then took it off.
Mm-hmm.
What was the
What was
point
the
of
point
even
of that?
any of that? Like,
It
it was
was
just like,
literally no point. He
yeah,
didn't need to mask himself. Like there wasn't
no,
a story point in there at all to
no.
say that he needed his mask on. Like
No, it was.
like
I mean,
he
it was
needed to
so. It
keep
was
his
so
identity or
just
some shit.
obviously. Hey, here's Zemo from the comics. You wanted him in his mask for Civil War, but you didn't get it. Here he is. Okay, now he's taking it off. We're done with that. We gave you what you wanted.
We
We're
gave
done.
exactly right. I was like, what the fuck? You just like okay, I get it. You're trying to give him his day in an action sequence for him to be kick ass, right?
Yeah.
And, like that's the whole point. And it was just like it was just too obvious. It was what the fuck are you guys doing here? It's so ridiculous. Like, oh man, it's making me kind of like after watching Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I was like, God, I gotta watch the Netflix series again. Like, I just need to
Oh
wash
yeah.
all that
Yeah.
out of my mind. And yes, there's because the
Yeah.
thing is like there's side characters that have potential, and then there's like they're not developed well. That's the problem. And then
Right.
you got the main characters that hey, like I did like the reasoning Winter Soldier had for why he was so annoyed by Falcon's
Yeah.
reasoning for not taking
Yeah.
the shield. And then at the end, which made sense, that he says, you know what, I understand now. I didn't understand what it meant that for me to give you that shield, or for
Right.
Steve Rogers to give you that shield, like what it meant to
Like,
be
how could
a
we have
black man in
understood?
America
Yeah.
to
Exactly.
fucking
We
take
we
up.
couldn't have
Yeah,
understood.
yeah, we couldn't have understood. And I'm like, that's really good. Like, that's such an important thing
Yeah.
to talk about, because even as me, somebody that like read the comics, and then like, are they gonna do it? Like, and then
Right.
when he gave him the shield, it's like, are they gonna do that though? Like, because it's just
Right.
there's so much weight to that. Like, you just can't.
Yeah.
You can't like comprehend the responsibility, and on top
Yeah.
of that, nobody's gonna like it. I mean, not nobody, but there's gonna be some people.
There's going to be a lot of people who have problems
people
with
are
it.
gonna like
Either
it.
yeah.
Exactly. Even within
Either because they're even if they're whether they're actual racists or they just are just uncomfortable with it because it's something new that they haven't
or
seen,
disenchanted,
right?
because like
Yeah.
Isaiah made it very clear that it made sense too that they brought his story up, because in America, like, there's a lot of races that participate in becoming a citizen of the United States by being a soldier, but they don't get their day.
Right.
No one hears about them. Only until in the past maybe 10 years that these stories have been popping up, and then people are
Right.
like, hey, like these are like all the people that died that, or say Filipino, even like
Right.
the Filipino involving themselves in the Korean War, the Vietnam War, and like the camaraderie that was there, and then some of the people that like had some really like they had literal suicide missions, and they're just these group of minorities, and you don't
Yep.
really hear these stories, and that was
Yeah.
the biggest. To me, it was very American in the sense of a story to say that we like even me, like somebody that's mixed with so many different races, that like how do I fit in the puzzle of America, and how do I really feel like a citizen? Like the question of it's deeper than that, and it's like there's a symbol to that, like to say that
Yeah.
I'm American or not to say I'm American. Like there's this that it's deep scar, and it's like when do we get that moment for ourselves, and should we even bother? And I think that's one of the good things that came from this, in the sense that how Falcon was really stuck in the middle of all these complex situations where not only he's just a human soldier, that's post-soldier, of course, but then in this kind of really wild world where he also came back from the blip thing, right? So now he's even further stretched away from what's happening, and then he has to then take up a symbol that people all know and represent something that is it really his? Is it really something that he can take on too? Is it maybe it's just the responsibility of it?
Yeah.
Like it, and for some people, like, it might even be like, oh, you took up you took up that white man's shield, like you just, like, it feels like at the same time, as much as, like, I think some people would say taking it up was a good responsibility, some people also might see it the reverse, where it's like, this is just like a betrayal of, like, what that means, like, that shield means all these terrible things, right? But then to him it doesn't mean that, it means his friend. But then, like, that's the conflict, right? Like, where it's just all these things piled up into a fucking shield, like, it's makes sense that he had that turmoil. He's trying to reconcile that between himself, his family, and then, like, also realizing that, just because he was on the line with Steve Rogers, not everything was so black and white, where having introduced Isaiah made sense, because now he had to have that conversation with somebody that has every reason to fucking hate to hate the idea of Captain America, because it's like fake, right? It's all this, like, fake elements to it. And like this, the power broker kept on saying things like, everything's a facade and it's just kind of all illusion, and, like, I get what she's saying, but then we don't see it enough, right? We always
all these, like, common themes are not connected, like, they're just very disparate, and, like,
it is very fucking strange how she says it, in the sense that, like, she read the entire script. Her character hasn't met Isaiah. We have no indication that she ever knew Isaiah existed, or that there was a fucking other Captain America post Steve Rogers, or in between Steve Rogers and him coming to the future, or whatever. Like, we don't know that she knows that, but when she talks, it's as if she knows this. It's like, I get it that they needed it, but I also don't understand the connection, like, how they logically connected all these things in the world that they're in. And it's like, okay, maybe I can just say that she knows more than what she says. Okay, power broker reasons, I don't know, intelligence reasons, like, random knowledge. And like, and then Winter Soldier made sense with the intensity that they had with the, his you mentioned it earlier, which was interesting, that he was going through his list of kind of penance that he was trying to go through. And
I mean, I think one thing about the Winter Soldier, like, because I like his whole connection to that one bodyguard, and that whole connection to Wakanda, because you kind of see it, like, you see it a little bit in Infinity War with just really one line where because they repaired him and they fixed his brain, and, like, they made it so that, like, he was actually able to function as a human being again. And, like, but he also, like, in Infinity War, when they're, like, about to fight, like, the wave, like, the army, and they shoot, like, the missiles or whatever at the force field, and they just, like, bounce off, and he's like, man, I love this place. And, like, they sort of they echo that again in the series, where he, like, clearly has like, he says, like, he's talking to his therapist, and she's like, did you ever feel peace? He's like, yeah, I did in Wakanda. In Wakanda, I had, like, that's the only time. Like, I was in World War II, and then I became the Winter Soldier, and I just went from fight to fight to fight. And Wakanda is the only place where I felt any peace. And I was just like, then why don't you go back? Like I like
Yeah.
like they
What's the
never
reason?
like they never put a reason to that because he knows where it is. Clearly he's welcome there. Like I get that like he went into battle in Infinity War, he got blipped out of existence, he got brought back, and then he fought in the end game thing. He went to Steve Rogers' funeral. But then why didn't he go back? Like why didn't he go? There was no reason. Like and then
I'm
after
surprised that the therapist just never said that. That's literally
yeah.
what the therapist would say.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. If this is the
confront
place
them
you found
with the
peace
problem.
in, why don't you go back? Like, you
Yeah,
know?
what's
you know,
holding you back?
like war and stuff.
Yeah.
Because penance reasons. Like what?
Yeah.
What? Okay, so
Yeah, I mean, you could
they
still do all of the 12 steps of recovery and just still live in Wakanda. Like
Sure.
you could do that. Like that's totally fine. Take a plane, go apologize, then go back home. That's it. Like
that's the crazy part. Like the problem was it was never explained. That's the biggest issue we have, right? Like, and that's a completely fair point. Like, it's not explained at all. And on top of that, like, there are so many ways you could have explained it. What if it turns out that part of his, I don't know, his what's the word? His them, what was the word? Where they kind of like, oh yeah, all your Winter Soldier issues, like, forget it. We will forget it. We'll take it out of their record and forgive you. Like,
his pardon.
Yeah, his pardon had restrictions to say you have to stay here or something.
Yeah, I mean, that would make sense where the American government can actually monitor you and make sure you're not a threat. Yeah, right. That makes sense.
Like, that would have been fine.
Pretty easy explanation, honestly, and it makes total sense.
Yeah, it's like the easiest explanation, and they don't fucking say anything. Like, it was only
because I mean that's what they actually do to criminals, right? That's what like okay, we're not going to put you in prison, but you can't leave this place ever. Like that's it.
It's so many of these things where we have to fucking assume that it's happening in this goddamn show.
Yeah, yeah.
It's so many of those things, and you know what? Maybe it wasn't the pardon. Maybe you could have connected the whole Flag Smasher bullshit, where maybe he would have then, you know what, I kind of understand what you're talking about, but no, you're still doing bad things. Like, maybe for whatever reason, there was, like, a locked kind of, like, travel ban, I guess. I don't know. Since the blip had been undone, you can't go to Wakanda no more because something happening there. I don't know. It could be any of those things. Like, really, like, there's so many easy solutions to explain this, and you know what? You gotta. I mean, it's just a wow.
I mean, honestly, I would accept even a flimsy explanation over no explanation at all. You know,
exactly right.
It's this glaring, omission of what the fuck's going on.
Yeah. It was like, I mean, if they have, you know what? If I think about it, like, if one of the issues we were previously talking about, where the series can't talk about certain things because the movies has to talk about it, then why couldn't they outline that even clearer so that, hey, you know what? Maybe Falcon and Winter Soldier is the story to talk about what's happening in the world. Like, just make it that. The pocket is the world. Like, the pocket of the story is what is happening post-blip. Right. Like, what is the kind of the issues that revolve around what the politicians were trying to say in the show. He's like, Captain America is now, he's now Captain America. So at this point in the show, he's at the end where he's like, I'm Captain America now.
Yeah.
And he's talking and he's doing the classic fucking 90s. Everybody's staring at him. He's making some sort of speech and everybody's giving him a golf clap, Yeah, I believe in what you said there. Yeah. Like, really, to me, it was cheesy. I just did not, wasn't a fan of it. Was where he was just like, telling them, like, look, if you don't come together, this is the kind of enemy that you will make, right? Essentially, right? Like, these are not our enemy. But because of these decisions you're making, you are causing more problems. And then the other fucking senator, whatever the fuck guy, was just saying, you just don't know the complexity of this.
Yeah,
no doubt. Like, of course he doesn't. Like, He's a fucking soldier. Like, figure it out.
Yeah.
Or like, and if that's the big issue, then why don't we have anything in the story that holds up to what he's talking about? Of
Right.
how complex it is. I'm sure it is. I'm not saying it isn't, but show
But
it
there's
in the
no
story.
sort of there's no like there's nothing in that. There's no representative of that politician world, right?
Yeah.
Like there's no one where we're seeing like the inner meetings of those politicians and they're really struggling. Like, what do? We don't know what to do. There's nothing like that.
Yeah,
Like we're
there's
only
no,
on the battlefield, and then you see the politicians come out and this is how things are gonna be. That's
yeah,
it.
that's it. Like,
Yeah.
what? It's like, then explain it maybe. Like,
Yeah.
I understand that there's like, dude, like the show 24 does better about
I was just thinking about
explaining,
that. I was
yeah,
just thinking about that.
explaining about
Yeah. It would basically
politics.
be like 20. This is basically 24, but only if you saw it from Jack Bauer's position, not if you saw it from David Palmer, the politician's perspective, and seeing what he has to deal with like all these terrorists, and also having to deal with the cabinet members fighting against his decisions, and it's like you get to see all the different sides.
Yeah.
So it all makes sense.
Yeah, it
Like
makes
why
sense
everybody's
it's not-
making every decision they're making.
Yeah, because we need that to further the story for the villain, why
Yeah.
she's doing it, and then further the story why Paul Walker has such a hard time just trying to finish the job with all the red tape that comes with it. And then on top of that, why Falcon and Winter Soldier are literally not dealing with any of his issues. That's like they literally go off and do their own shit. And that makes sense because like they know that the red tape is just gonna hold them back. And
Right.
and I get that they do these one-liners for the reasonings to do the things they do, but I need the scenes. Like I need the characters having the actual struggle of going through what would be as simple. Like
It is a little odd too that they're even able to be free agents at all.
Right.
Like because you see them like you saw like Falcon in like the first scene like working with the military. So I assume he's like basically acting like a mercenary. Like he's a free agent. Like they'll pay him, contract him, whatever. But like he's still Falcon. He's still a superhero. So I'm like they haven't. I just realized they haven't explained at all post blip what the state of the Sokovia Accords are.
Yeah. What's his
right? Like what happened to that whole issue? Like the whole thing that Civil War was about, those Sokovia Accords, what's the status of that? Did they just throw them out after everybody came back? Are they still instated? Or like what is it? Like, and I just realized that, and that's a really glaring omission.
That is.
Like
that's a big deal.
That's extremely important. That is what divided the Avengers. That is why they lost to Thanos in Infinity War, and why they came back together in Endgame and were able to defeat him.
And why? Okay, and then like at the same time too, like why couldn't they just make another Captain America between the time when he became enemy of the state? And why is it that like
true?
Why are
I know. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I guess we're just supposed to assume you can't be Captain America without the shield. But it's just like what, like that.
Yeah, I know, right?
That doesn't make sense.
That doesn't make sense either. Yeah, you could just.
Also, I mean, vibranium is a resource. Like I get that it's in Wakanda, but like they still have vibranium other places. You could have just made another shield if you had to go by the shield. Like if the shield is what is required by Captain America.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
Like pretty confusing because like is it. Okay, so maybe they had I think I remember the.
Oh man, I'm sorry. Hang on. Let me interrupt you. Because you were just talking about the political. I just realized. You know who could have been the perfect fucking person to be that other dude in the room with the politicians so that we understood the context? Fucking Rhodey.
Yeah.
He was there.
He was actually, he was there
in the first episode.
And
they never brought him back
later.
He's like literally the perfect person, the representation of the Air Force to be that fucking person.
Oh my god! Like another fucking such
Dude,
a simple
hindsight.
solution.
what we're talking about, like I didn't realize like half these issues until we started talking about it, and now I'm like, oh man, this show is not even as decent as I thought it was. There's some real issues here. Like,
yeah, it's
oh
kind of
man,
weird, right? Because like when you talk it through, I was just because when I was watching it with Brenda, I was just like making all these questions. Why this? Why that?
yeah,
Do you even understand what's going on right now? Like,
yeah,
because she doesn't know the comics, so she has a different, fresh perspective in the sense that, like,
right.
well, I don't understand the context of what they're trying to say here. And I'm like, you're right, it doesn't make sense.
Which
It's
is
like,
important. We need that. Like that's how most people are coming into this. Like,
yeah,
it's the unbiased thing. Like, most people are not comic fans watching this shit. They're like, oh, yeah, I watched Endgame. That was fun. I'm going to watch this new series.
yeah,
Like, that's how they make their money with those people. Like, that's
right,
most people who watch this shit.
yeah.
Like, and it's amazing how
it's
much
very
they cater to the hardcore fans. It's like, you got to notice the Easter eggs. You got to notice who this person is.
yeah.
Like, and it's just like, but what if you don't? Then
Yeah,
where
if
does that leave you?
Where's the story? Yeah, like there comes a difference between putting in the Easter egg because it's fun, or putting in the Easter egg because it actually fits the story. And none
Right.
of the Easter eggs here.
No.
I think it's just both series for me. Like the Easter eggs haven't been fitting the story very well. Like there's just a lot of disconnected,
Yeah.
amalgamations of things. Like, you put in these things that are happening, or a character that's there because it's trying to like either reference the original comics, or they're trying to like tease you with something that doesn't is just a red herring. Like
Yeah.
those things are like should not be there. It should only be there if it helps serves the story.
Right. It should already be. It should be additive. Like
yeah,
at all times. Like it should be like, okay, the story's complete. Now let's just add a couple fun like Easter eggs that people can either notice or not notice, but it doesn't affect it. But if you do notice it, it adds a little. Oh, that's kind of cool. But it's not like, oh, the Easter egg should like staple together these story plot threads, so that if you don't understand it, you're fucked. Like you don't get the story. You don't understand what's happening.
It's like a weird effect that is opposite to the movies. Sorry, to the movies, where they don't just want to throw in characters just to throw them in. They throw in the characters when it serves the story, and I'm surprised that it does not feel like they have the same philosophy here for a good amount of it. I mean, like safe to say that, like for instance, witchcraft wasn't very emphasized, like the inner workings of it. But the Marvel universe doesn't also. So, but that's the thing about like magic, where it's like wizards, mages, sorcerers, and like warlocks and witches all have a different interpretations depending on what like fiction you're reading. So like Harry Potter's version of a wizard is different from say Lord of the Rings wizard. So that, which is fine. And then like, but then where does our stance on Marvel's version of that? Right.
I mean, they even joked about that on the show, right? Where he's just like, "Well, what is this like? Well, there are no wizards. Like, well, Doctor Strange is a wizard. No, he's a sorcerer. Well, what's the difference? He's like, well, a wizard is just a sorcerer with a hat on, and it's just like that's not the actual explanation. That's what he's saying, but it's just like at the same time, well, what is the difference? Do we know the difference in the Marvel universe?
I find it funny that they asked that question here, but they never did that.
Not in WandaVision.
And prior to that, they had things that made sense for how science and magic blended for Thor. Like remember that Thor 2, like she made that. It's like, oh, it's a quantum, blah blah blah. Like let's just put in quantum in the word. But anyways, like but like it made
the ultimate fictional buzzword. Yeah.
Right. Whereas like in Doctor Strange, we get the sense of like idea that the energy is being pulled through you from other dimensions. Okay, I get it. That for your fiction, it makes sense, and that's what a sorcerer would do. And then we never. I know that we're gonna get Wanda in Doctor Strange, but we never got an idea where that was an aspect of her too. Is she?
I mean, hopefully they go into that with the whole multiverse thing. Like we actually get to see how like the inner workings of magic are because
concerns me a lot just because I feel like we're not. Like I feel like we're not gonna get it at all.
I don't think so either. Yeah.
It kind of it.
I think it'll just be left as like a nebulous thing. Like it's magic.
Right.
Like that's it. Like don't question it. Like,
so far from both this series and the previous series, doesn't it feel like there was no consequences for the things they did? Like at this point in time, sure, we have 2 villains or 3, if you count Seinfeld introduction. like they are, yes, the consequences to the actions that have happened. So we got a power broker as a villain. Oh no, wait, no, we got 4. So power broker, right, villain, and then we got
power broker, Zemo, technically, U.S.
Zemo,
agent,
yeah. So
Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
But I don't.
And then.
But when it comes to actual, I think that's it, right? Isn't that it?
Think. I mean, Wanda is seen as a villain by a lot of people, I guess, at this point, but she's not actually a villain, so I wouldn't count that. I don't know. Vision, maybe? I don't know. After WandaVision, we don't know where. Right. Well, I know, but like he's still like we don't know exactly how he operates, right? Like if I don't know if his fucking code could be rewritten or something. We don't know what the fuck's gonna happen with him. So maybe I don't know.
Get a hint that she's just gonna get her kids back, anyways. I don't know. It just really bothers me that what's her name? What's her name? She got the powers. Monica Rambeau. That she says they'll never know what you sacrificed. I'm like, bitch, she sacrificed nothing because like she's practically getting everything back. Like we know that the kids are gonna come back in some form, and we already know that Vision's coming back. Like, she sacrificed.
Maybe, yeah. I guess it depends on how things play out, but
exactly.
Right now we just don't know. Yeah.
I hope. See, that's the thing. Like, I hope in the next few stories that we get, that Vision becomes a full-blown villain or some shit. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or something.
I mean, I would prefer that than things just going back to the way they were.
Exactly. It's like a pseudo retcon of sorts.
I mean, that's kind of why I wish, like when we were talking about WandaVision, that's kind of why I wish, like when she wiped the reality, that everything was wiped, including him. Like, and it was just, that's it. Like that's her. That's the closure. That's the bittersweet ending, and that's it.
Exactly. I needed something like that
because honestly, that would have given us more closure as the audience too, right? Like it's like, okay, this is the end of Wanda and Vision's story. Like Wanda's story will continue, but this is closure for her, and it's closure for us. That character is done. Like,
yeah. It just, I don't know.
At this point, we just need more answers than questions. Like we need answers to these things that you keep posing instead of just, oh, here's another movie, more breadcrumbs. Right. Here's maybe kind of sort of an answer, but here's a million more questions.
And that's another
Watch the next movie to find out. You know,
that's the funny thing too. Like I feel like we're just never gonna see it in several years from now, because even with Shang, this is the perfect segue to the other thing was the Shang-Chi trailer that finally Mandarin exists. So
the real Mandarin,
right? He actually,
which they hinted out years ago as well,
like
right? Where like they had. Yeah, because it was like right after Iron Man 3. Do you remember they were having those one-shot things where they were like having webisodes, and they brought like Ben Kingsley's character from Iron Man 3 who like was playing the Mandarin, and like he was in prison and like he was being interviewed, and like he basically said something like he inferred that the real Mandarin was out there, and he had told them if he ever leaves prison, he'll kill him. Like he inferred that. And so it's like, oh, well, the real Mandarin's out there. Who knows? And then like 8 years later now, we're seeing hopefully the real Mandarin.
Right.
We don't know. You know? Yeah. Exactly.
At the very least, the villain in this one being Mandarin is better than what it was in the comic being like such a racist name.
Oh yeah. For sure.
Fu Manchu.
Extremely racist. Yeah.
I was all like, yes, all right. Good job, Marvel.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's nice that they went the other route. Apparently, he's playing Shang-Chi's father, so now we have
Yeah,
that as like
yeah,
that's
they
the
weave those
villain.
two things together. Yeah.
So that makes sense. And yeah, like I don't know much about Shang-Chi
I
whatsoever.
know very little except that he's worked with Spider-Man a couple times. That's like all I know.
I don't
Um,
even understand what is he like the version. He's like what is he like a Iron Fist or something like that? I'm confused.
Not even. I mean,
I don't think he.
he's literally just like Bruce Lee. Like he's just a
Right.
really, really well trained martial artist. Like he doesn't like as far
Has
as I know,
zero
like he's not
powers.
even Iron Fist where he can like, concentrate his energy and make his fucking fist glow. It's like it's nothing like even like that. I don't think there's any
Ah.
sort of like mysticism around him. Although maybe by the end of because like in the trailer like they're
What kind of
showing like
powers
the
do you have?
10
I'm Asian.
I mean, they're showing like in the trailer like the 10 rings or whatever, and like
Yeah.
how that has some sort of ability, and someone like is using it. It's not him in the trailer, but someone else is using those things to like
Oh.
cause some kind of energy waves or something. I don't know, but like, yeah, it. I think actually one. I think because they introduced Madripoor in Falcon and Winter Soldier, in one of the scenes, it looks like they might be there
Oh.
um,
Oh.
in,
Okay.
in one of the trailer scenes from Shang-Chi, like they might be fighting there. So I
Okay.
wonder if they're actually going to bring that environment back. But it could I mean, like when I first saw it before I saw
That kind of
Falcon
makes
and Winter
sense.
Soldier, I figured it was just Shanghai because it kind of like that. It looks like that landscape, but
Mm.
it would be kind of interesting if it was Madripoor. They
Right.
started blending these like comic locations with the actual movies.
Right. I can't wait for Latveria to show up. You know. The best made up fucking place ever. It'll be funny. I was thinking a few days ago where like Latveria actually takes over Sokovia. He's like, it's my land now, and then he has like a issue with with Zemo and shit. Where they'll have some opposing ideals. Man.
Yeah, I kind of wonder at this point if Zemo's ever gonna make his way back into the movies, like as an actual
Yeah.
villain again, like as a big bad villain. Because I know that they intend to like obviously they're gonna eventually have a Fantastic Four movie and they're gonna introduce Doctor Doom and stuff, and I
How that's gonna
I
play out.
wonder if they can bring Zemo back into the movies and make him like a powerhouse villain. Like a kingpin level villain who like sort of he's like this Overwatch in the Marvel universe who's like sort of playing this chess game behind the scenes with like all these different heroes and stuff. Because I mean, like that's kind of how Doctor Doom operates, and it would be kind of cool to see those two team up or something. But
Mm.
Zemo in his current state is such a joke. Like he's
Yeah.
such a joke, and it
Yeah.
sucks because after Civil
So
War he was so cool.
yeah.
Like, and
Yeah.
then now he's just sort of been demoted to this like slapstick character who I'm
Yeah.
just like, if we see him again, is he going to be that same version? Or is he going to be like the version he was in Civil War? Or is
Right.
he going to be another version? Like, what? Which character? If we ever see
Yeah.
this guy
His
again,
character
like,
is kind of
who is
bouncing
he going to
around
be?
all over the place.
Yeah.
He's really not the same character that he was from previous whatsoever.
No,
I
not
think
at
it's
all.
also because like that revenge aspect. Like we never got back to that.
No.
If you think about it, remember his last scene that like he had was where he was about to kill himself, and fucking
He was talking to Black Panther. Yeah.
yeah, and Black Panther stopped him, and I'm all like,
Yeah.
did you just not for? Did you just forget?
Yeah,
You wanted to
exactly.
kill yourself? Like suddenly now
Yeah.
you don't want to kill yourself. What's
Yeah, I mean, like there was no talk of like why didn't he kill himself in prison? Like he that first like his first line to Winter Soldier when he goes to see him is like, at least your prison was like in your mind. Like at least like you could sleep and like your prison wasn't there. Like and they would wake you up. This is like a real prison. So he clearly, I mean, obviously he hates it. Like he was already suicidal when he went into prison. Why
yeah?
didn't he kill
Like why he
himself?
didn't?
Like
He could have
like
easily attempted such things, you know.
yeah.
I mean, like,
I mean, him of all people, you could figure out a way to kill yourself with like
exactly.
in that little cell, you know, like you could figure it out.
He could have, yeah, exactly. And I feel like there's that leap of like we're just like you could have just done it with a one-liner too, where it's all like, well, I've come to realize that my existence is more than my revenge isn't as done as I thought it was. Like,
Right.
like
Sure. Yeah.
like maybe like the Avengers, the Avengers. Okay, so super soldiers and Avengers will always exist as long as I'm fighting against it. Like
Right.
it
Right.
I could have just been okay with that line, man.
Sure.
I could have been
Yeah.
okay with that, you know? Just
I
like
mean, but it
I
comes,
live,
but instead,
yeah,
yeah. I mean,
like I
instead they
live.
sort of, yeah, they sort of did what we've talked about before, where it's like, oh, it's almost like this character knew that they would come eventually, so he just waited. Like he just waited. He's like,
Right,
eventually someone will need
yeah,
me, so I'll just wait years here in
yeah.
this cell reading books. Like
Another
he knew his own destiny.
It's
Like
another yeah, it's
before
like
it happened.
another character moment that you could have had for build up was him and his butler guy. Could have been like, it
Yeah,
turns out the
yeah,
butler guy has some sort of like, that guy's a genius or some shit, or has
sure,
connections to the outside world in a sense that he can still send messages to Zemo back and forth in the fucking raft.
right.
And then on top of that, they could have again have Seinfeld lady show
I
up.
mean,
Be all
again,
like,
that's how that's how prison works in the real world as
True.
well.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
the biggest criminal masterminds of some of the biggest organized crime are in isolated cells that you know the most, like it'd be like, well, how are they going to run it from prison? I assure you they do, and very well, and they have for decades. So
Right.
it's not a giant leap to see that this super genius villain would be able to do the same.
Yeah, exactly. And it would have been just fine to have this personal character moment without the eyes of having Falcon there or Winter Soldier, where he has a moment
Yeah.
where it's revealed that his motives is further solidified to say that he knows about these super soldiers long before Falcon or Winter Soldier ever even approached him, and
Yeah.
knows that they exist, and he's working behind the scenes to stop it. And maybe that's why. Maybe he's connected to some other person.
Yeah.
You know, like, or I mean, at the same time, it could have been perfect too, where he's the polar opposite to Power Broker, where Power Broker is trying to gain power, or whatever power they want with super soldiers, and he's the exact opposite, and where he's trying to push back, and they're both in their personal. Actually, you know what? That's another amazing thing. They're in their personal prisons because Power Broker can't go back to the life that she knows, and neither can he. So, but they are forever changed because of the Winter Soldier movies and the Civil War movie. That their lives are forever changed because of these things, and why they have such a disdain for either one has a disdain for super soldiers in the sense that it's like should never exist. Another one says, "Oh, I hate super soldiers, but it is the go-to thing to get. Like that's where I can capture power." And
that was one of the problems that I had with Zemo destroying the serum. Like, why didn't he at least keep one? Because like we've already seen, like he was using. We even see it in the show, like when they go to Madripoor and he's pretending that like Bucky is still the Winter Soldier and he still has control over him. Like he was using a super soldier as a tool before.
Right.
Why wouldn't he do that again? To like maybe help him take out his enemies or for some other reason. Like it was so weird that he just destroyed the whole batch of super serum. I'm like, this super genius didn't have any like motive to keep at least one of those capsules alive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he didn't think that he could use that for anything, even though he's used it in the past. Like he literally used this in Civil War. He used Bucky to fucking get out of prison. Like, and to take on the Avengers.
Yeah, exactly. We needed at least maybe even just a simple throwaway line where he just says, like, he even asks himself the question, maybe in front of her when she has the serum in his hand, saying like, I could just easily take this for myself right now, become a super soldier, but we all know, or even used,
or even
it
just
for,
turn someone else, because
turn
like
somebody else,
they said that like he has all of like Hydra's plans in his mind. Like he knows all of their
Right.
secrets, and he already brainwashed one super soldier before. Why couldn't he do it
Yeah,
with
why couldn't he do
more?
it again? Yeah, like we just needed these throwaway lines where he just explains, saying,
Yeah,
you know, I've done it before, but you know, I'm not the type of person that
not
needs to.
again.
Yeah,
Yeah, like anything.
something
Yeah,
like, anything like, it's like, I made that mistake once. I learned from my lessons, and he's like, it should just never exist. Like
right.
maybe he's like, maybe even like have a throwaway line where he's like, you know, I thought I had a chance to control people with these serums, but clearly it doesn't work out that way. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like as simple as that, where it's like we understand his stance and then like his motives.
Yeah, but even then, it's just like, okay, well, he's riding with Sam and Bucky for the whole fucking series, just like as this like side dude, and it's just like,
Yeah.
Bucky's not under your control anymore, so he's not really of use to you, and he's a super soldier. Why don't you hate him? Why aren't you gunning for him? You know?
Right.
Like, I could understand when you had him brainwashed and you were using him to get to your objective, but you can't do that anymore. So why don't you kill him? You know, like
Right.
because he's just gonna cause problems for you, and he's exactly what you hate.
Explained anything like,
I don't remember any line like saying that,
like,
but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
it's like, again, there's so many.
But
like,
even if he did, the fact that neither of us can remember means it was an insignificant line anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, okay. I mean, yeah.
I don't know what else there is to say.
I don't know where. I don't know where else to take it.
Again, it's not terrible. It's a decent show. I just wish it was more. I wish it was they had just done more with what they had there. You know.
Yeah, 6 episodes wasn't like, it seemed like
definitely
it was way too tight for them to explain.
Yeah, I thought. I mean, before the show came out and before I watched it, I thought like they were gonna just tell a tight story. Like just a tight, like if they wanted it a shorter, because like obviously it's fucking Marvel. If they want to bleed something to death, they'll do it. So I figured like if they wanted it to be a longer thing, it would have been longer. But like, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what happened behind the scenes. Why they couldn't.
Yeah,
like,
who knows?
Yeah, why couldn't they just like give, like, they could have just made even episodes that never revolved around Falcon and Winter. Like they could have just.
Yeah,
let's have
totally.
a sole like one whole episode for a whole
one
character.
whole for Isaiah, and then a whole nother one for Zemo, and then a whole nother one for Sharon Carter. Like, why not? Why not?
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's kind of strange to just like not to have such a powerhouse like Disney and just didn't go all the way, or couldn't go all the way. I guess I don't know what was the problem. Maybe it's like a idea of like, we don't know how well it's gonna do. Let's be conservative with the situation. Like,
if we give too many answers here, then we can't draw this out for another 5 seasons. We got to make this show last.
Yeah, it could be easily like.
I mean, I really hope that's not the case, but I have heard some rumblings that like it may come back for another season, and I'm just like, God. Because like they
planting the seeds for IPs.
Yeah, and they,
I mean, hopefully, the bright side. Hopefully, because that they have more, whatever restrictions they had or whatever whatever happened in the current production, that it doesn't happen again now, and it's like we can work freer, because we do know that some movies, like, they lose their director because of some sort of like
creative differences or
some shit. So who knows? Maybe that was
could be.
Maybe these questions we had was brought up, and it was just an intern that was saying it, and they're like, "Fuck you," and then like, you're fired. and then he goes to one of the directors. You got any questions too? Oh, okay, all right. No questions from you, right? Like, you want to ask a question? You want to look like this guy? He's out on the streets now. He's living his dream, working for Disney, working for Marvel, and now he questioned us.
He decided to have a brain, and now he's fucking gone. He'll never work in this town again.
He's like, he's like, I didn't hire him for questions, did I? Where's my coffee? Oh my god. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, we'll see. It's a lot of that happening with that. But anyways, I mean this pretty much took up the entire episode. I think we've recorded this for quite a while. Yes. All right. All right. We need to talk about Invincible though.
Yeah.
So let's just do it. Do you think I should split it up?
Yeah, you could. We could. You talk about Invincible, and then if we need a little more material for like the rest of the hour or something, we could just talk about some news, like look at any sort of news or something. I don't know.
Okay, all right. Let's go for it.